how do we navigate in this world? And I think that it always comes back to, who is it that I'm serving and what's the problem that I'm solving? And then how can I solve that problem the most effectively so that people can pay me the most amount of money to do it? So imagine you're a plumber, right? And you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to solve the problem so that people have great plumbing that always works for them, where they don't have to worry. And if they ever end up in a jam, I'm going to be the guy or the gal who they call. I'm going to put in hot water tanks. I'm going to make sure that their toilets are working. If they need to put in a new kitchen sink, I'm the guy, I'm the gal. And I want to do that, I'm solving a problem. And what's the actual problem that I'm solving? Well, I'm solving the problem, of peace of mind. I'm solving the problem, if it's a home reno, of giving somebody a more beautiful space so that they can hang out with their family and connect and not have to actually think that their life is in chaos, but they actually have peace of mind. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flourish podcast. I'm so excited here with my partner in crime in this podcast, Shae. Welcome everybody. My name's Abe Brown. Great to see you here today, Shae.
Yes, you too.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I got my coffee, so
hey,
can't
coffee
complain.
Is important. I'll tell you what, we live in a very cold place called Canada. This morning I went for my run. It was minus 14 degrees Celsius. And so coffee doesn't just wake us up, it also keeps us warm.
It does. Yeah.
That's right. So, hey, today we're going to talk about flourishing in business. And, what I love about the flourishing mindset, the thriving mindset, is that our lives are actually multiple factor in terms of their scope, right? I can't just say, well, my life is all about my mental health, or my life is all about my physical health, or my life is all about my money. I think that our lives are, I wouldn't say it's complicated, but I can't just pay attention to one factor. I have to pay attention to multiple factors. And so today, we're going to spend time talking about the factor of business. And one thing that is really important to notice is that the part of the economy that's growing the most is what they would call the gig economy. And that is entrepreneurs, that is small businesses that are growing. As a matter of fact, in both Canada and the United States, small businesses represent about 80% of all employment that's non-government. And that is a massive statistic. And so today we want to talk about flourishing in business. So, hey, you do business a little bit, right? And what do you want to tell us today about flourishing in business?
Yeah, so I think I learned I guess over the past decade, just from observing different people. I did not grow up in a family that were entrepreneurs or in business. I know my grandfather was. He had his own paving business.
Nice.
I didn't really know him very well, but I know he worked really hard. And so I've always been drawn to that.
Nice.
Because the thing of owning something that is your own. And I think a lot of people like government jobs and different things like that. But I think we're all just wired differently. If you're more maybe free-spirited and creative, entrepreneurial, or things like that, then that would make sense. And so I know that because I didn't have anyone in my sphere of influence who was a business owner, I went out searching for them.
Nice.
And I was picking their brains about what does your mindset look like? What does your work ethic look like?
Right.
I was very naive in thinking, what it would actually take, I think, for the first few years.
Okay.
And just learning, there's a mindset, there's an attitude, and there's also a work ethic. And so most recently I've been working with Abe, and I've gotten to know him, his work ethic. I've learned a lot. And so I guess I would just point that back to you. What are some things, what is your mindset around that?
Yeah, like business to me, so I've had a wonderful career. I would never recommend my career to any rational, normal person, because I started in the charitable nonprofit sector. And then I went from there into the business world and small, medium-sized businesses, and then into entrepreneurship, which is different to some degree from small and medium-sized businesses, though, of course, they can be the same thing. And then into nonprofit again, and some of the largest in Canada. And now, of course, I'm fully seated in the entrepreneurial space. And I can't tell you the freedom that I feel. I actually think true wealth. Like if you actually look at what is true wealth, well, of course, right? I'm not Warren Buffett. I don't aspire to be, but to me, true wealth is having freedom. It's having impact, and it's being able to be generous where your heart is telling you to. So, I'm not sitting here with boatloads of cash. I have more than enough. And the amount that I have is actually not as important as the fact that it gives me the freedom to come to work every day doing the things that I love. And the thing that I always think about is, I'm not stuck in a job with a boss that I hate, with people that I don't like or respect, doing tasks and things that I actually think don't matter. I think that actual entrepreneurship gives you this beautiful privilege of waking up every day saying, hey, I'm doing something I care about with people that I like, with a cause that I support and that I care about. And so I don't even think you can put a monetary value on that. And, if you're an entrepreneur here today, I don't want you to think that flourishing is about a certain amount of money. Yeah. I would love for you to look at it through the lens of sort of freedom, impact, and generosity, because I think that's more important. Now, we do need to make money. So then we could talk for a moment about, how to flourish in actual dollars and cents, because that's important. That fuels the stuff. But what do you think about that? Freedom, impact, and generosity?
Yeah, like that's what actually attracted me to entrepreneurship. Because I think, everyone has their own definition of success. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think it's just based on what you value in life. And then again, how well your life matches what you value. So for me, it's been very clear for me that my family is one of the top, 2 things that's most important to me, and my time. And so I know that if I have more control over that, where I can work for myself and allow myself to have a day with my son if I need to, things like that, then that's worth it to me. I mean, we only have 18 years with our kids. And so, that's kind of has always been my motivation. You see a lot of people on Instagram and things like that with the flashy things. And to me, it's like, okay, like those are just things, right? But it's, for me, it's like, how do I actually feel inside? So, yeah.
How do I feel inside? And that's really important. And ultimately, one of the challenges, right, in entrepreneurship today, I think, is that the whole economy has changed. The way I described it to somebody in the last couple of days is that there's been a lot of changes that have been brewing, right, with big tech and social media, and how sort of the digital economy and even AI is starting to come to the surface. And all of that actually, I think, is great. I mean, I can't believe how lucky I am to literally be alive in 2023 with pretty good faculties and pretty good competencies. I think, wow, this is awesome. I could have been, I've been reading history to Jasmine, my 9-year-old daughter. It's so cool. We're going through like the Encyclopedia Britannica or the Smithsonian version of history. And it's so cool because, she's understanding that like 10,000 years ago on this very soil, like you would literally be just spending the entirety of your day just scratching, trying to find enough food to make it to the next day. And here I am today, like I don't even think about that. I walk over to the fridge, you know what I mean? I open it up, there's all this food. My biggest problem is, of all of the things I could eat, what am I going to eat right now, right? And it's so funny because people aren't happy, It's like, man, do you not realize, like, man, for thousands of years, human beings, like their biggest problem was just eating and foraging enough, or maybe finding a rabbit and being good enough with a bow that you could take that thing down, bow and arrow, and then maybe figuring out how to cook it if you could even get fire. Like, it's just amazing to me how lucky we are to be alive at this moment. But let's also be honest, there are real challenges out there. You got inflation, you got interest rates going crazy, you got a war in Ukraine, very sadly, you've got another really bad thing that just broke out in the Middle East, as we know, in Gaza and Israel. And like, this stuff actually matters. And then into all of that, you have I think the madness of climate policy, I don't mind saying, which is actually untethered from like something simple called math and reality of where technology is. And I apologize if that offends anybody, but let's just look at spreadsheets and try to understand numbers. And you actually see how these things are hurting people. Like, I guess I get passionate about it because I talk to the victims of some of these policies, people who have to choose between, do I pay my rent or do I go to the food bank? And I just think that's horrible when these are manufactured artificial things that we're actually doing to hurt people. So back to entrepreneurship, how do we navigate in this world? And I think that it always comes back to, who is it that I'm serving and what's the problem that I'm solving? And then how can I solve that problem the most effectively so that people can pay me the most amount of money to do it? So imagine you're a plumber, right? And you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to solve the problem so that people have great plumbing that always works for them, where they don't have to worry. And if they ever end up in a jam, I'm going to be the guy or the gal who they call. I'm going to put in hot water tanks. I'm going to make sure that their toilets are working. If they need to put in a new kitchen sink, I'm the guy, I'm the gal. And I want to do that. I'm solving a problem. And what's the actual problem that I'm solving? Well, I'm solving the problem, of peace of mind. I'm solving the problem, if it's a home reno, of giving somebody a more beautiful space so that they can hang out with their family and connect and not have to actually think that their life is in chaos, but they actually have peace of mind. I'm solving the problem of doing it at a reasonable paycheck, because oftentimes people who don't know anything about the trades can sometimes feel like maybe they're being taken advantage of because they don't know what they don't know. And maybe this person is taking me over a barrel. And I want to do that so well that the reviews and the word on the street about me is so positive that people are willing to talk about it. I've had HVAC guys leave my house, and 2 seconds later, I get a text from them saying, if you liked what we did today, could you leave us a 5-star review on Google? And some of them, I'm like, absolutely, because man, you came, you saw, you conquered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You did the thing, you did it. I'm a very clean person, so I don't want them leaving a mess that I have to clean up. Like if I'm going to pay you, then A, don't make a mess unless you have to. And B, if you make the mess, you clean it up because I'm the one who's paying you. And, they do all of those things. They do it with excellence and professionalism. Of course, I'm going to go on Google and be like, man, this is the person that you want doing this for you. So, even though so much has changed about business, so much has actually not changed. And you can always tell, like the HVAC guy or the plumber gal or the person, the barista at the coffee shop or the server in the restaurant, you can always tell the ones who love what they do. That actually say, you know what, yeah, I maybe I'm tired today, or maybe my energy is low, but I actually care about the customer. I'm actually here, and the only reason I have the privilege of a paycheck rather than scratching, to try to hunt a rabbit or some carrots in the ground somewhere is because this customer keeps showing up, these customers, and spending the money so that I can be paid, but somehow we treat them like we're doing them a favor. And those are always the folks that, yes, I am the guy who will give a 5% tip rather than an 18% tip if the service sucks, because that person actually, their heart and their head isn't in the game. I'll tell you what, it's a privilege to live where we live. It's a privilege to do what we do. It's a privilege to serve people. And if people feel that vibe from you, I'll tell you what, you'll never have to do another job that you hate again. But if they don't feel that vibe from you, you are sentencing yourself to a bunch of jobs that you don't even like, where you're never affirmed, you're never recognized, you're never supported. And so that's kind of what we think about a lot when it comes to business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like a favorite Tim Hortons I go to.
Okay.
And this guy, he's amazing.
Okay.
He smiles. It's like 6:30 a.m. and he's like it's like his goal is to make your day.
Isn't that cool?
In that 5-second window time that you're ppicking up your coffee. And I'm like, you inspire me.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he does.
And you know what? Like, here's the thing. That guy is probably making, I don't know, like $15 an hour, $18 an hour if he's lucky. Like, it's not like, I don't know. What do you think he makes? I mean, does he look like he's the boss, the owner, or does he look like he's a regular person? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. It just looks like a regular employee. But I mean, I think, I think you're absolutely right. You can see when someone's heart is in it for sure. Yeah. And the way they're focused more on the way, I guess, they make people feel rather than how they feel. So yeah, I think that's amazing.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that gets lost in the service economy. Okay. So like, if you actually look at macro level in sort of a developed economy, but even in a third world economy, friends, you kind of have service economy and you have sort of production economy. So the service economy is serving people, using your skills and your abilities to serve. And then in the production economy, you're making things and then you're selling them, right? So you could be making clothing, you could be making iPhones, but you're selling something that you've made. And in the whole thing in the service economy is the word service, right? Do you know what I mean? Like it's not, oh man, I hate doing this and I'm only going to do it. You're a pain in the butt. And I went into a hospital the other day, and I don't spend a lot of times in hospitals because I actually hate the way I'm often made to feel. Maybe it's just the hospitals I go in. I don't know. But it's like you feel like you're inconveniencing this person. You pull up to the front desk and they're working frantically on something, some chart or something. And then after 5 minutes, they finally acknowledge that another human being is in the room. And it's just like I feel like saying to them, I promise you, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have to be here either. Like there are a million places I'd rather be than a hospital. But you chose a job in the service economy, right? Like this is called healthcare. Do you know what I mean? And right now, you're not helping my mental health by actually acting as though I am a pain in your butt. And it's just so weird to me. Like people make choices that don't line up to the actual designation or career path that they have allowed themselves to go down. And so, for me, like I'm in the service economy. I actually spent time in production economy before. And you know what I found? I mean, your guy at Tim Hortons, what a beautiful blending. So they're selling something like it's a real product. Here's a coffee, but they're doing it in a way that as a customer makes you feel happier. And how awesome is that, right? Because now you're probably out there telling people about this great Tim Hortons and this great person, and they're going to fuel their business because of that positive review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so in all your experience in business, like 20 plus years, what are some mistakes that you've seen, maybe that you've done, and then some things that you've done differently now?
Well, the biggest mistake that sometimes we make is thinking that we're the only ones who have ever done this. And so it's like we get this idea and we're like, hey, I got to go do this. And so we run after it and we end up making a whole bunch of rookie mistakes because we didn't find somebody who could coach or mentor us in the process. Mm-hmm. And there's a real fear out there today. I get it, right? That somebody might steal your intellectual property, or they might steal your idea, or they might take advantage of your talent. Listen, it's happened to me. When I first went into business, I mean, it was within 6 months, somebody had literally stolen $50,000 from me. And so after that experience, I found myself much more reluctant to trust, much more reluctant to partner. I do believe that caution is really, really wise, but I also think there's a level of caution where you're like elbows up in every relationship and you're not willing to trust. And then that pushes people away so that you never even get the opportunity. So I guess for me, I had to find the balance between saying, I need to protect myself, but if I can find some safe relationships, and maybe that's a mentor, maybe that's a coach, maybe that's a business partner, then I can leverage. And so everything I've been able to accomplish in business in the last decade has come through partnerships. I wish I could tell you I'm this self-made man and just look at me and I have all these peons and I'm sitting on top of this pyramid and I send emails and all of these millions of people take orders from me. Actually, I don't wish that, because that would be horrible. I would probably draw a big bullseye on my forehead and drill something through my own skull, because that would actually drive me crazy. I am so much more about partnership. The problem, right, is you have to be careful about who you partner with, right? You have to have enough emotional health and mental health that you're not desperate looking for a partner, but also enough mental and emotional health that you're also not looking around like suspicious at everybody, as if everyone's trying to hurt you, like you're the most precious snowflake ever. Like, you just got to have wisdom. And I think the other thing that I found is, like I was sharing earlier, is if you choose a thing, whatever that thing is, it could be plumbing, it could be Tim Hortons, it could be like us, coaching and training and facilitating, then do it with passion. Like, don't drag your sorry butt to work, acting like you're doing somebody a favor. You give it your all, because I think we all know that we're most effective and we're most attractive to our customers in the sense of having them want to keep doing business with us when we operate that way. And, so for me, the whole mental and emotional health conversation has really helped me in business, because sometimes you just don't feel like it. Like sometimes I'm not feeling it. But then what do? Well, you still show up. You still deliver. Why? Because I chose this. Nobody put this on me. Nobody stuck a gun to my head and said, Abe, you have to do this. Right. This is what I've done because I'm choosing to do it. And so you remember that.
Yeah, that's really great wisdom. And, of course, our podcast, the Flourish podcast, Flourishing essentially is being strength-based in our approach to life in all areas. So how would you say flourishing in business, how would you, what's advice you would give to some business owners out there and using that strength-based approach and how that's helped you? Yeah,
so this is like maybe the number one thing when I'm working with a small business owner, a medium size business owner, or a leader of a nonprofit. And that's a strength-based approach. So there are only a few things that a business does well enough that someone else will pay them to do it. There's only a few things. And so a lot of the time what happens is we create this profile where we're trying to do everything, and we're trying to do everything with equal sort of passion, effort, and excellence. And what you discover, and this is even in the nonprofit world, man, I was the director of programs for a nonprofit. I had 60 programs under me. Think about that, 60 programs, 200 employees. Like they were trying to do everything. And one of the most valuable processes we took them through is what is essential and core to our business. So that's a strength-based approach, is saying, what are the things that we could do that are so amazing that actually we can charge premium prices, or in the nonprofit space, have like high value donors and high levels of government support and high levels of public support. If you try to do everything, what happens is you literally milk down your product to the perspective that you're just another voice in the crowd. And a strength-based approach also then isn't about being comfortable in those things, but it's constantly thinking, how can I do those better than the competition? And if it's only those 2 or 3 things, well, you can handle that, because yes, you've got the attention span to build and focus on 2 to 3 things. But if I say to you, okay, Shae, you got to run 60 programs, like, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, like there's not even 60 hours in the work week, right? Yeah. I can't even literally give 1 hour per program per week. Right. And so how am I supposed to do any of that with excellence? And, I think, one of the most courageous things you can do in 2024 is develop a not to-do list. Yeah. Here's all the things I'm just not going to do in the business anymore because they're costing me money. They're actually not adding any value. Just be strategic.
Yeah, that's awesome. This year was my year of yes. But then I think it's almost equally as important to maybe have a year of no and hone in on what's most important. So
that's cool. I'm hearing that from a lot of people too, because 2023 was a tough year for a lot of people. I had a beautiful conversation yesterday with a beautiful guy, and he was just talking about how many difficult things he's experienced in 2023, and yet also some beautiful things like the birth of his business, the birth of a third daughter. And, you're right. Like, it's like you look at 2023 and you're like, there was a lot of cool things, but now as I move into the next year, what is my plan and my strategy? Yeah. So, awesome. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We want to talk today about flourishing in business. We hope that some of that helps you. And hey, if you have a business idea, if you're a person who's like, I'd love to scale my business, well, I'll tell you, our expertise is helping business owners to scale and helping them to get to consistent, 6-figure years, 7-figure years, 8-figure years. And so if you are interested in that, go to failuretoflourishing.com. Let's connect. And I look forward to seeing you all. We look forward to seeing you all in our next episode. Thank you so much.